Hey friends, today we're brewing my favorite Pilsner for a competition. Let's go. So with the competition season coming up, I had to make another iteration of my Pilsner. I made this Pilsner a few months back with my friends and it went way too fast. It got drank, given away, had some people over, and it's just totally gone and I miss it quite a bit. So I think it's a great time to brew it and also submit it to my favorite local competition, the Drunk Monk, and see how it does. So let's go. And fair warning, this beer turned into a bit of an experiment of how many non-Czech ingredients we could use in a beer and still pass it off as a Czech Pils. So we're gonna find out. Starting with the grain, I went with 90% German Weyermann Barke Pilsner. It's probably the best Pilsner malt in the world, in my opinion, and probably the most used one throughout. And then 10% Weyermann Vienna malt, which is also a German malt. Yes, this is blasphemy for Czech beers everywhere in some people's eyes, but in my mind, Barke Pilsner is just so good that why not use it in a Pilsner, because it just works so damn well. I also like a little bit of Vienna to break through the hop character and add some of those bready notes into the beer, so I think it's always a positive, and it's still within style guidelines for the color, so I think we're in a good place here for a start. After I milled the grains, I mashed them in at 144 degrees Fahrenheit for a step mash. First step was about 45 minutes. I then ramped it up to 158 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes, and then I mashed out at 168 Fahrenheit for 15. I then sparged and then pulled out the bag. For water, I didn't do too many adjustments. I just went with my local Chicago water. I do think it's really great soft water for beers like this. So only thing I did do is adjust the pH down to 5.3 for the mash. And for that, I used lactic acid. I'll still leave the profile at the bottom of my screen in case you want to replicate that. For the hops, I wanted to use a really good bittering hop that had a high alpha acid percentage, so I wouldn't have to use like 3-4 ounces of Saaz to bitter 6 gallons of beer. So I went with what I had on hand, which was Simcoe. So I used 1.1 ounces of Simcoe for bittering. I got American hop and a Czech style. Sorry guys for traditionalists out there. But the rest of my additions in this beer were Saaz hops, and for those, I added 1 ounce of Saaz at 10 minutes and another ounce of Saaz at 0 minutes. I actually used my IPA whirlpool techniques at this point, where my boil was done. I just recirculated the hops through the wort, created a bit of a whirlpool to drop the hops out, and I'll also get some of that added flavor, and maybe a few added IBUs as well. After that, I chilled the beer overnight in my garage and then racked it onto Saflager 3470 2-liter starter. Again, not a Czech ingredient. This is a German lager strain that's absolutely amazing for Pilsners. This strain works so well. It's dry, it helps accentuate the bitterness, but it also helps dry the beer out, make it extra crispy, and it's also super fast fermenter, so I can get this beer in a competition pretty quick. So that's pretty much it. This beer was judged the past weekend at Drunk Monk. I think it did kind of well, so let's get a little pour of it and talk about the results. We good? Oh yeah. Here it is, boys and girls. Look at that Pils. Yes, crystal clear. Although I'm using a floating dip tube, so it's just pulling off the top, which is awesome. No gelatin, no filtration, just good old Pils. Okay, so everyone's eager to know how I did on a competition, so let's get into that. I have my notes right here. I have my sheets, and the results are in. So this Pilsner right here did not win any medals. However, it did get 40 points from one of the judges, which is freaking incredible. Another judge gave it 36 points, so the total was at 38. Although I do have a Coconut Milk Stout that won gold in the spice, vegetable, and herb beer category. So since the coconut is technically spice, veg, herb, I got gold in that category, and it actually went on to Best of Show, and it got an honorable mention. My friend tells me that it was close between all those beers, and I didn't get a medal, but I got a ribbon for that, which was awesome. And you can check that out on my Instagram. So the Pilsner, however, got the same score. It got the same 38 points, which is an awesome score for a beer, and it is really good. and I think deserving very much so of that score. But it is a very tough category. There are about 28 entries that were in the Pilsner category alone. So let's talk about what those judges said and what the feedback was. But before that, I'm gonna taste this really quick and just let you know how I feel. I've been drinking it kind of, so I already know what it tastes like. But it's been conditioning and it tastes different every few days because it's still coming into its own. It's still kind of young, but I think it's finally hitting its stride right now. So it's as best as it's gonna get. So, and the aroma, it's pretty spicy, hoppy. Although I do get some malt in there. I do get a little bread cracker flavor from the Weyermann or the Vienna. Wow, super. And look at that, the head. It's been like 10 minutes since I poured this. There's still like a white head and it's sticking to the glass like crazy. I was taking pictures before this, setting up the camera, and there's still like a nice white layer. So that's a good appearance. Also, I don't know if I'd call it brilliant, although it's pretty close to brilliantly clear. So points for that. Wow, super hoppy. So it's like, it's got that bitterness in there. It's got the zesty sort of lime, and it has that like tiny spicy flavor from the Saaz hops. I think that's great. I think that hits all those marks for the category. And I think it's that 0-minute addition in the beer is what makes it so good. It's like a flavor and aroma addition all at once. It's almost like a whirlpool for hops, where it's great. It finishes super light, dry, and drinkable, which hits all the style marks on that. You could just crush one of these or even a bigger glass in no time. It wouldn't even bat an eye. OG was 1052, final gravity was 1.009, so it's at about 5.6%, slightly higher, but still within style range. And I honestly don't even notice it. I don't know where the alcohol is. I don't get any yeast flavor, no sulfur. Even with 3470, I did make a big starter, so no hint of esters. Whew. Okay, now, what did the judges say? So, Judge 1 gave it a 40, and the final notes are, well done, missing a creamy texture, great choice of yeast to hit the style, the astringency is the only fault, parentheses, sparge temp. I don't know if I get the astringency, I get bitterness, which in my mind is just style, but this is a nationally ranked judge, so maybe this is something I should look out for. But wait till you hear the second judge. Judge 2, overall, very easy drinking beer. Slight cloying richness, but clean bitterness helps. Astringency isn't a problem. No other significant flaws. Nice work, beautiful beer. So it sounds like the judges kind of couldn't agree on the astringency, but they each found something of their own. So one pointed out astringency, I'm assuming from bitterness, and the other one saying the bitterness is good. Missing a creamy texture. Maybe my Chicago water isn't as creamy as maybe like Pilsen water is, so maybe I gotta work on that, which is an interesting point. Maybe some calcium chloride additions, possibly. Think about that. And then the second judge pointed out slight cloying richness. I'm not sure what that means, but maybe it could be a little drier. Maybe I could do some added step mash steps to make it finish a little drier. Maybe it's a little too sweet for them, so that 0.09 finishing gravity just doesn't quite get there. But again, maybe something I could also fix with water, some gypsum maybe. I'll see if that has a positive impact. That's that. No metals here, but I got other metals, so I'm not upset about this at all. I do want to enter this beer again. I want to kind of keep perfecting it and keep you guys updated on how it's doing. In my personal opinion, I think it's missing that bitterness that I had last time I made it. It had this like pretty sharp bitterness that cut through, and it was a little more grainy for some reason. I don't do anything different in terms of grain, but I will have to revisit that whole recipe in Brewday to see what was different. So outside of that bitterness, I could technically add a couple more ounces of hops at flame out, kind of really employ maybe even a whirlpool technique like you have in IPA, and see if I could get those hop flavors to really pop. I think it'll really set this beer apart at the table and make it something really special. I don't know, that might take it into like a pale ale IPA category though, so I don't know how the judges would react to that. Worth an experiment though in a small competition, and then next year at Drunk Monk I'll maybe make it that way if it works in a small competition. So overall, fantastic beer, 10 out of 10. We'll make again. So for that, stay tuned and thanks for watching. Cheers.